Hey everyone, welcome back to Cool's Reviews. We have a special project upcoming here for March, and so in order for everyone to get ready on that, we all had to catch up on some movies that perhaps some of us have seen or some of us have missed. So, starting out, we're looking at One-Eyed Jacks, starring Marlon Brando as Rio, and we watched the Criterion version because why not? I mean, if you got a Criterion handy, watch it. It's actually the third time we've watched one on the channel. Previously, we watched Haxan for Spirits of the Silver Screen, and then we watched Doctor Strangelove, which was kind of fun. As usual, my name is Keegan. Joining me today is
Matt.
Sam.
So I guess without getting into spoilers, we'll kind of just discuss what the film kind of is about. Obviously, our main character is Marlon Brando as Rio. Now, Marlon Brando also directed this. It's his only film he's ever directed, so it's kind of a special one. The first time I picked it up, I just thought it was a Western starring Marlon Brando. But when we get to spoilers, we'll talk a little bit more about the significance of this one. We'll start with you, Matt. What would you kind of describe this movie as?
A love story. No.
I mean, it did have a love story in it.
Yeah, kind of.
Well, it's kind of hard to really go into it without spoilers. I mean, it's a love story. There's a story about, friends and how a story of betrayal. I don't want to give into spoilers, so it's hard right now.
What about you, Sam?
I enjoyed it. It was definitely pretty good. It would be hard to miss what spoilers we're going to talk about if you don't really know the story very well, or know the kind of clothing that are referenced in it. But no, it was definitely pretty good once you kind of understand what it's about. Otherwise, you'll just watch it and it's like a western outlaw movie.
Yeah, definitely that outlaw influence, Obviously pretty big in the time that this was made was a lot of outlaw films. This one was made in 1961, but because it's a Criterion, it honestly looks like it was filmed probably yesterday. I mean, Criterion does a fantastic job, and so I think this will get into the directing portion. How did you feel about the directorial debut and I guess
Of Criterion.
only time Marlon Brando debuted and directed?
Did a great job, I thought. I enjoyed the movie.
Sam, do you think it was a pretty well directed film?
Oh yeah, for the time it was definitely very good.
Yeah, it definitely kind of feels ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm.
If you've seen perhaps The Assassination of Jesse James or No Country for Old Men, it feels more in line with that 2007 year of westerns. But I think it's great. There's lots of great shots in the film, and I mean there's just certain where the scenery is just beautiful, the ocean or the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's get into acting real quick. Matt, how do you feel about the acting in this one?
It was good. I mean, the sleazeballs played a sleazeball role. The heroes in the end played a hero role. I mean,
This is really kind of the first time we've talked about Marlon Brando outside of one other video. So if you've watched that one certain video, I think you know where we're going in spoilers. But it features some other people we've talked about. Slim Pickens is one. We've talked about him in our Doctor Strangelove video. Pretty well known for the bomb scene if you've seen Doctor Strangelove, or at least seen that scene because it's referenced a lot of times where he's riding the bomb. That's him.
Mm-hmm. I was expecting him to ride a bullet in this one, honestly.
But at the same time, his personality, his mannerisms in this one reminded me a ton of Blazing Saddles. It's a film we've all seen before and we've all watched in Roswell together as well. And so there's just some scenes where I'm pretty sure he just stayed in this character till they made Blazing Saddles. It also features Carl Malden and Pina Pellicer, who plays his stepdaughter in this film. But I think across the board, everyone gives a pretty good performance. What about you, Sam?
No, absolutely. It was definitely really good. A lot better acting than now. I'm just kidding.
Definitely. Watching this and the way they frame movies and tell stories, you don't get that anymore. I feel
No.
everything kind of just feels like it was made in a warehouse.
And very repetitious.
Very repetitious. So it was just kind of refreshing. So I guess before we get to spoilers, because that's I think where we're trying to head, 2 anyway. We'll just give our rating and recommendation. Matt, what would you rate this and what would you recommend?
Go with a 9 on this one, and I would recommend it. Absolutely. Check it out.
Yeah, I would say a solid 9 as well. It perhaps is not my favorite film of all time, but it's definitely in my list of like all-time favorites. So I think 9 is fair. What about you?
Yeah, I'll go with a 9 as well. I don't know, watching an old school movie with like in Petite Blu-ray, making it like look kind of like nowadays stuff, was pretty fascinating.
Yeah,
Always is.
Yeah, Criterion does an excellent job. I know when we watched Haxon for Spirits of the Silver Screen, we were impressed, but I mean, I've never not impressed by how their films look. I said we watched Doctor Strangelove. We've now watched One-Eyed Jacks. I remember when I got
Looking forward to House and Tampopo.
Yeah, we definitely got to watch those here soon. But I remember when I watched War of the Worlds, I was like really impressed too. So go watch it. Criterion always does an excellent job. But from here on out, we're getting into spoilers. So if you do not want to be spoiled by this 1961 film, One-Eyed Jacks, click away, go buy it. You can find it at Barnes & Noble or Amazon. Alright, so for those of you that have watched the film, you should by it now at least know that it was definitely highly inspired or loosely inspired by Billy the Kid. For those of you who don't know, this was definitely inspired by a book that had taken the history of Billy the Kid and Pat Garrett and moved it to California, and I'm not exactly sure why, but it plays out pretty closely to what they knew at the time. If you picked up like a copy of Pat Garrett's The Authentic History of Billy the Kid, you'll definitely see some scenes, especially early on, when Billy's up in the hills and he's getting surrounded. It's straight out of, with some changes, but straight out of that book. And obviously the whole like buddy between Pat Garrett and Billy was something that was talked about in those days. Everyone kind of played like Pat and Billy were friends, but with modern like history and looking at it, it doesn't seem like that was the case. But I mean, he's called the Kid. I don't know. I mean, I think Carl Malden as the sheriff could be one of my favorite Pat Garretts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's above Ethan Hawke. I definitely liked Ethan Hawke in that film. The Kid, which speaking of the Kid, we were talking about this earlier, where we're wondering if the kid in that one who goes by Rio was inspired at all by this film. Because even dresses sort of like Rio was dressed at the beginning. So, I guess getting to spoilers, Matt, do you want to start off?
Well, I'm glad in this one the sheriff gets it in the end. I was happy to see Rio come on top. Just the way they portrayed the sheriff, you know, he was definitely the bad guy. He left his partner high and dry in the beginning of the movie, and then kind of like sabotaged him in the middle of the movie, and glad to see he got his in the end.
Yeah, so it definitely diverges from actual history, where Pat Garrett killed Billy in Fort Sumner in 1881. In this film, Billy's like character kills Pat's character in, I guess, what is the fill-in for Lincoln. They're in Monterey though. But pretty much you see the Lincoln escape and everything. Like we were talking about Slim Pickens earlier, where he was playing, I think he played Bob really well. Bob always kind of gets a bad rap. Obviously, from what we know, he kind of picked on the kid, and it always is like the one character I think is consistent throughout the films that we watch, is like he's always like poking at him. You're gonna get it. Can't wait till you're like black and blue, your face, you know, when you're strangled.
Well, I don't know. I think Bob was a sleazeball though too. The way he treated.
Oh yeah, in this film, definitely he treats, I guess, Pat Garrett's like stepdaughter.
Yeah, for Rio's girlfriend or whatever.
Yeah, I guess
they decide to be.
The stand-in for what now we would probably consider Paulita Maxwell, or at least at the time, possibly a fill-in for Celsa Gutierrez, because during, I don't think it was Pat Garrett's novel, but Walter Noble Burns, he actually had written Paulita as the love interest, but she was still alive. So then he changed it because Celsa had already passed at that time. Oh, you were talking about the sleazeball.
Well, yeah, I thought he was Bob was the sleazeball in this film. He made advances on other women, degraded them.
He like
Seemed like a bad character.
hung in the shadows like Creeper Batman until
Yeah.
she got home, and then was like, "Why don't we take a walk on the beach?" So Louisa like slaps him, and then he's like, "All right, I'm gonna tell your dad you were out all night." Then I was like, "Dude, that is not a cool thing to do." I guess fight the archetype of the time where like the bad guy's definitely very sleazy, but I think the heroes, not just that like, Boy Scout kind of thing. He definitely is layered, like, as far as he's done bad things, he's trying to do good. And by the end, he didn't. I don't think he wanted to kill the sheriff at that point. I think he would have just rode off, but unfortunately, he had come to town, and then they have the epic duel where history forever changed, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say the very first time I'd watched this, I don't know why I didn't see the connections before the jailbreak, but once they got to the jailbreak, and I kept seeing how just mean he was being to Rio's character, I was like, man, this is kind of weird. Like it feels like, and I guess because where it takes place, maybe I didn't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, yeah, it definitely feels like Billy the Kid. And then I did the research, and I was like, oh, that would make a lot more sense now. And watching it this time, you see a lot more of it.
Yeah. I mean, if I would have known before, I would start to question it probably with him being a left-handed gunslinger. And them talking about, like, when people are like, oh, is that him? In, like, the first bar scene before they even go out to California. They're just like, I don't know, they kind of, like, were mentioning, like, the hot shot, essentially.
Well, and he's, like, called the Kid.
Mm-hmm.
He's well liked by the, like, locals, the local Hispanics.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very much like Billy. That's why a lot of people are like, well, Brushy Bill doesn't make sense.
Nah, he's a believer of Brushy Bill at
I
this
have
point.
never been a believer. But it's just like, Brushy was very, definitely used some racist terms, so it just didn't fit with how people describe Billy.
Mm-hmm.
Among a plethora of other bad things that just don't match up with Billy's story.
Now, old Henry, on the other hand.
I do like Old Henry. That was a good film. We watched that.
Mm-hmm. It was.
Actually was originally going to be directed by Stanley Kubrick, and then he couldn't take it. Sam Peckinpah had read the script, and if you guys know the name, he eventually made Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. This movie has influences throughout, and I think it is underrated. I don't think a lot of people know about it. You guys, like I said, if you watch our channel, Marlon Brando came in at number 7. Watching it again, especially now, I probably might move him up a couple notches, at least to number 6.
Well, yeah, seeing the whole film, he would definitely jump in my book as well.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't think I could put him above like Emilio or Val or David Leon or
Emilio
Jor-El.
Estevez?
Yeah, Emilio Estevez plays good.
Emilio!
Emilio! I was like, Emilio!
Yeah, but I don't think I could put him above them. But definitely, I think he should be higher.
Well, it looks like we gotta watch all the movies and make that list again.
We should update it. That was our first top 10. Perhaps definitely not our best video. We hear your comments a lot. I've seen what you've said about it. But there's been more Billy the Kid movies.
All
so
fairness, we should probably watch
we
the
should
movies
watch.
all the way through then.
Yeah.
We
The
should
whole
watch
movies,
all
that's what I
the
was
films. Possibly make some notes so we remember. That was like my main thing. Like we watched them all and I like didn't take notes. But yeah, I think especially with the Epics Billy the Kid series out
we
now.
watched them all. We were just watching snippets and going from that.
I did watch them all. I mean, we
We were
watched some
kind
of
of
them
looking
at
at
that
it
point.
for like the outfits, as far as I remember, and maybe
Yeah.
how their acting
Yeah,
was
and maybe the
doing in
looks
certain
of
scenes,
whether they
looked
fit that role or
accurate,
not, right?
not
Yeah.
like how they portrayed it. So that was definitely our faults, and that's why I think we should update and do it better.
Yeah, and I think, especially like I said, with the Epic series out, I know you guys have talked about that a lot, but that we should check it out. So we'll come sit down, watch that, re-rank the Billy the Kids, and talk about ranking. We're actually going to be doing a series, a little bracket, with March coming up here shortly. We figured we'd do some like March Madness style brackets, and what better to do than Billy the Kid movies. Billy the Kid's been one of our biggest topics on our channel, one that you guys seem to like the most, so we figured why not do something about Billy the Kid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some special guests for that one. I don't want to ruin the surprise quite yet, but
Don't want to surprise you with them.
don't want to surprise you, so I'm going to tell you right now. No, I don't want to ruin the surprise, but I think you guys will enjoy it. We've gone back and forth, and I think it's going to be easy the first couple rounds, but as I've seen where the bracket goes, I'm like, especially how I would rank the movies, what One Eye Jacks goes up against when it comes into play, I'm just like, oh, that's going to be
If
tough.
it makes it that far.
If-
Unless you've already got your bracket
Yeah, so the
pre-decided.
bracket's already rigged. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, there we go. It's rigged.
No, it's not rigged. Some of the films, because there's an uneven amount, there's some that have bye weeks. The higher ranked films, One Eye Jacks is one of the higher ranked ones, so it has a bye week. Looking at the film that would move up into that, the two contenders, one I legit just put in there because I wanted to get one of our guests his viewpoints on the film, just because I know he's talked about it. When he saw that, he kind of laughed about it. Now I think Sam knows which film I'm talking about.
Mhm.
But the film it goes against is one of my favorite Billy the Kid movies, and one we've talked about on the channel here, actually. So should be interesting. I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
It's going to be great having Emilio Estevez on the show. Oh,
Mhm.
sorry, spoiler.
If we could get Emilio Estevez. just be like,
Emilio, check it out, man.
we've had one Billy the Kid on, so why not we get some more? Just have all the Billy the Kids on here. So any final thoughts before we end this film, Matt?
Just check it out. Really a good movie, and if you get the chance, like Keegan was saying, get the Criterion Collection edition. You can't go wrong, especially if you've got a Blu-ray player, high definition television. It really brought to life, a movie made in the '60s, and truly gave it color and life, and it was really well done.
Mm-hmm. It looked amazing.
Yeah. There's like two films I've ever just wished Criterion would do. One is definitely The Assassination of Jesse James, which is a newer movie, but they've been doing newer movies as of late. I think that's the type of movie that would just look beautiful as a Criterion. But also James Dean's East of Eden. I think East of Eden's probably his best performance, though I do like Rebel Without a Cosmo. Any final thoughts for you, Sam?
Looking forward to ranking Billy the Kid against Zorro. No.
I don't know if the kid has a crossover as Zorro. I do
wouldn't be
say
surprised.
there's more movies with Billy the Kid fighting Dracula than I thought.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that.
I mean, I knew there was the one, and then, like, you guys are like, nah. And then we went to the museum, and you're like, oh, yeah, it's right there. And I was like, yeah, there's a movie poster in Fort Sumner. But there's
Yeah.
another one that I guess is not a spoiler, but it's called Billy the Kid. It's a female Billy the Kid. And it's not just, like, the name. They're just, like, pretending like Billy the Kid was a female. And I included this for one of our other guests because they actually did an episode where people thought Billy the Kid just because in one of the letters Billy was spelled Billie instead of Billy. And so people are like, oh, it must have been a female. And they're like, well, for one, we have the picture. And for two, if you read it, I think it's either a fake or he didn't write it.
Right.
So, but in that one, they fight vampires. I'm like, how many Billy the Kid versus vampire movies are there? Maybe we might have to do top 10
there's
of those.
definitely, I mean, we should, but there was definitely a phase where vampires were a very big thing.
Well,
Still
just
kind
like
of are.
zombies now.
I mean,
there's so many zombie movies
true.
out there.
Would
But they're
it-
not as good as the old ones, like 20 Days of Night,
Yeah.
or no, yeah,
28 Days Later.
28
days later. 20
That was
days
a
or
great one.
20 Days of Night was a good vampire
Yeah.
one.
Well, 30 Days in a
30 Days of Night, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
28 days and 28 weeks.
28 weeks.
Those are
Yeah,
good.
those ones were intense. Then
I think a lot of people give like Dawn of the Dead a lot of credit, which is
Mhm.
good.
it is good.
But
That's the one
28
with the shopping
days,
mall.
yeah, 28 Days
Yeah, that was a good
is
one.
underrated and should be looked at possibly
Yeah, we should
higher.
do
I don't
some-
think that's a hot take.
We
but
should do some top 10 zombie and
Awesome
vampire
zombie
ones.
movies.
Maybe-
Even though
Yeah,
vampires
that'd be good.
might be unfortunate for us because it'll be electoral.
Twilight.
Well,
Well, yeah.
Would a zombie ever go up against a vampire? Or would a vampire know the zombie's dead and not go for the blood suck?
It wouldn't go for the blood suck, but it could just kill it.
There's that one video. Okay, we're getting off topic, but
Yeah, back to what I was saying. No, I would recommend the movie as a final thought as well. It was definitely really good. I mean, I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
yeah, no, I think this Criterion does good, and as we've seen, we've ranked them all pretty high. We've done 2 as reviews now, and then 1 as the Spirit. But I think there's a couple more we'll be checking out here shortly, especially the ones Sam mentioned. But go check it out. Like I said, Amazon or Barnes and Noble, especially if you want to go during the Criterion flash sales, which are July and November. We've done a couple of those collection videos on this channel, but
What
you want
days and weeks does it go?
just the entire month.
The entire month? Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're half off Barnes and Noble. But up until next time, because we'll be doing more of these, but if you want to see some of our older Cools reviews, including that one where we watched the Skinwalkers, which was fun, check that link above Matt's face. If you want to see more about what we're doing here, including some upcoming Billy the Kid stuff, click the link over Sam. And don't forget to hit that like and give us a subscribe.
And switch that notification bell from personalized to all if you want to be updated on our upcoming content.
And let us know, is there a favorite Criterion movie you want us to check out?